I hope everybody's satisfied to ecstatic about their room arrangement. I really didn't do it for that reason, but I do hope you're happy with it. And since we're on that subject, having walked this walk with Jean Z for the past few weeks and realizing what she has done to keep Baghdad in order and thriving all these past years, I really want to say a big thanks to Jean, and let's Jean have She was a big help to me. There are some people here I know whom I don't have complete information for mailing on, and some people have said they had other names they wanted to turn in, so I put this book here with the information that you'll need to put down, and if you're here and I don't have all the mailing information, including the phone numbers, because they come in real handy, if you put that down, I'd really appreciate it. And write legibly if you can. I can't, but it does help me if you do. So, I think that's about all about registration. And it makes me remember an Al-Anon person I was talking to in Myrtle Beach at one of the conferences down there, and we were talking about critiquing chairpersons, long-winded ones, probably a little unkindly, and she said the best guideline for a chairperson is be brief, be honest, and be seated. So, briefly, I am Marianne, and I am an alcoholic, and I'm real happy to be here. And I'd like to introduce our speaker, and I can pronounce her name, I believe. I've been practicing. Now I think I've forgotten. Go for it.
Go for it, honey.
Cahuenga?
Yeah.
Well,
hi, everybody. My name is Cahuenga Begue, and I am an alcoholic. And I'm glad to be here today. And to have awakened this morning without my face stuck to the front seat of my car. Because that's how I used to wake up a lot. I'm a lady today, but I was taught in my home group not to be as authentic as I can. And so I can't say regurgitate. I am a puker. And I don't do that anymore because I don't drink, and I used to drink alcohol, and I loved it. It solved my problem. Before I get, into my wonderfulness, there's a man named Larry Brantley here somewhere with a voice on the phone, and so was Linda. I want to tell you, I am not Angie from Blythe, Arizona. I want all you to know that, and Larry knows it. He and Linda got me ready to come back here by phone, and Jean found me, and Don picked me up, Don H. at the airport, and we didn't have it. I didn't wear a carnation, and he wasn't holding a sign, and we found each other instantly, because it shows. His lights were on. And my lights are on, and I see the lights on of most people here today. And that's what I called it when I got here, because I didn't know what it was. I looked around the room, and I saw the eyes, and their lights. I try to stay away from people whose battery is not charged, when their lights are not on. Don's lights were on. I saw him as he got off that airplane. And I saw it when I got here. Everybody took care of me. And I was welcomed, and it had been a long time when I got to AA. It's been a long time since anybody had welcomed me anywhere. I want to tell you two things out front, because I never hear the talk. Can't get into my judgment until I know how sober you are, and any lies you may have told all your life. And so my sponsor taught me to clear those up right away. I look old enough to have made coffee with Bill Wilson. That's right. And I'm sober. And I would love to stand at a podium and skip over the fact. Two of them. One, got sober on June the 23rd, 1983. That makes me a walking time bomb. I'm 6 years, 11 months, and a few days headed toward my 7th birthday in Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't tap dance in here from the senior prom. I got sober when I have to tell you the truth, when I was 50 years old. And I'm going to be 7 years living sober on June the 23rd if I just keep doing what I was taught to do here in Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is a common name in California because it's a freeway. I wasn't born Cahuenga Begue. I had a husband once, and I still pray for that poor baby. His last name was Begue, and I used to drink alcohol and have fights with policemen when they stopped me because I was driving drunk. Because I was a native Californian and I had a right. And what do you mean a ticket? Well, you don't talk to the LA Police Department that way for long because you end up in jail. But I was drunk one night driving on the freeway to a performance, and I was traveling with my lawyer and my astrologer, Stanley. You know, when you don't have the answers, you hire them. The ones you want to hear. I was just feeling on the inside like I felt most of the time. You know, not even, just less than most folks. And I sure didn't want anybody to know that. And so the outside was always hot, you know, and right on. And angry and hostile and full of fear is what I was. And important. I needed to be important. God did. I need to be important because I felt like nothing most of the time. And I figured if people ever found, what do I do if they find out? What do I do if they find out? Don't ask me what they're going to find out. Just that feeling of what do I do if they find out? I got to keep fighting and struggling and working and drinking and making it right and getting to the top because I sure don't want them to find out. That night, I didn't feel quite important enough. And I was born with the name Phyllis Irene Krabby. Enough to make you drink anyway. It was 1961, and I needed some help. I needed this program from the time I was about 18 years old. And driving down that freeway, I was driving. I took my lawyer with me so I wouldn't have to go to jail anymore. I could come on a retainer. He drank like I did. And it never occurred to me till I got sober. And Stanley did not drink. He smoked Thai stick and whatever that is, and he ate vegetables. Lots of it. He lived over my garage, and like a rabbit, you know, I bought his vegetables, and I bought that Thai stick. And he was happy. He never touched my stuff. And when I came off the hangover, I felt like I just stepped out of an 11-story window early in the morning. I called Stanley. He had my natal chart on his wall, and he told me that I was going to be all right, that Jupiter was transiting Scorpio, and that my 11th house was strong, and that I was going to be all right just as soon as I had a couple of bottles of Dos Equis beer. I paid him to do that, and I took him everywhere with me. If you hired me in the recording business, Stanley came with me. And he sat in the corner of my studio, and there are a couple of recording companies in Los Angeles who risked their entire business on those decisions Stanley made while we... Anybody that thinks God wasn't working in your life before you got here might want to reconsider. Because I was a successful businesswoman. It's the other part I have trouble with, my life, living. So, driving down that freeway that night, out there it just started to put big signs up on the freeway so you'd know where you were, and I liked, and I felt bad inside, and I thought, God, I got to go to that performance, and I'm scared, and I looked up, and I saw that sign, and I said, boys, Phyllis Irene Crabby just doesn't cut it. I said, what about Cahuenga? What are they going to say? I buy his tie stick, and I'm responsible for where he lives. And this man needed that retainer because he drank hard. And they said, that's great. That's right, is what they said, and that's my favorite answer. That's right. And I came off that spree. I was a spree drinker. I don't taper off. I taper on. And I was heading for that spree. I'd been tapering on for a little while now. And I woke up about 14 days later with a new name. We'd gone to that lawyer's office and we had changed it. I don't remember doing it. It wasn't my fault, So from 1961 until this morning, today I deal with the wreckage of my past, and my name is Cahuenga Begue legally, and it's part of the wreckage of my past. And so I'm here to tell you about the rest of it, what happened to me, what I was like and what happened to me and what I'm like today. A little bit about where I came from, because I used to lie about it. I never told the truth to anybody about where I came from till I got sober and until I got a sponsor and a home group. And until there was another thing that helped me, till we call it hitting our bottom, and alcohol and this disease got me to where I might be willing to get honest. Because I didn't get here, too tightly wrapped. I was dying when I came here, like most of us, one way or another. So I'm going to tell you the truth today, because what I found out after I stayed here a while and started to do it, walking through that fear of letting you know who I am and where I've been on the net, it removed that invisible glass sheet, that sort of piece of saran wrap or, plexiglass that was always between you and me, always between me and the people in the world, my parents, my sisters, anybody I worked for, my lovers, my husband. I never could get it, I never had an intimate relationship. I never felt close, really close. Sometimes alcohol, when I drank, gave me that feeling almost. But by learning here to tell the truth, every time I do it, I feel close. I feel like I'm in the arms of the members of Alcoholics Anonymous, and like I don't ever have to drink anymore. So here it comes. Still takes a little of my pride away when I tell you, but here it comes. I used to make up identity for where I came from and who I was and who my family was and where I banked and what size bra I wore and how much I weighed and where I ate and where I bought my underwear and who I married and who I didn't. And I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to tell you the truth. I grew up in the foothills of Los Angeles, up in the foothills. Pitiful little place. I've been there sober. It's still pitiful. Little town, the garden spot of Los Angeles County, we call it, called Cahuenga. And that's not bad enough. It was sort of like, I grew up there with what is now called the Hells Angels, but up there they were the beginning of the Hells Angels. They were called the Galloping Geese. And the Nazi Party, anybody who was evading the law, and anybody who was asthmatic or tubercular. That's right. All my friends I played with used to get up and hit the ball and sit right back down again and breathe their asthma door. I felt different right away. because by the time I was about 12, I was 6 feet tall, and if we could afforded it, I'd worn a 36C bra, and I wore something that I had to do it in sobriety. I thought I'd never have to do it again. I wore overalls, bib overalls. Hurts me to tell you. Gotta love you a lot. And Aunt Merle's hand-me-down shoes. I hated Aunt Merle for having the money for shoes, and I hated her for handing them down to me. They were white Cuban Oxfords, and I wore them because my feet were big. I did not have asthma or tuberculosis. I was a big, healthy sort of hillbilly, if you will, and I wanted more than anything not to look like I looked, feel like I felt, and be what I thought I was. I was born with a birthmark on the right-hand side of my face, one of those big purple ones. I still have it. Estee Lauder and I worked on it this morning. Just don't turn the heat on. My face will melt and run all over the top of my shoes. When I was growing up in Cahuenga, I didn't know, about makeup, and that birthmark made me feel funny. We lived in public parks and storefronts and 22-foot house trailers behind gas stations. My parents are good, hard-working people. They were then and still are. Everybody in my family went to work as soon as they could because we needed the money. And we used, my parents are not alcoholic. My father is a Swede, firstborn on this side of the ocean, and grew up with a religious background that did not allow alcohol, radio, television, high-heeled shoes, makeup, cigarettes, movies. They allowed that 3 times, because I have 2 sisters. And so I did not know what alcohol was. Never seen it, didn't know what you called it. And when you're living in a public park, your parents do not come home and have cocktails. You try to find a place to sleep that night and get as much water as you can on the open fire. When I was 9 years old, I went to work and frosting root beer glasses in an amusement park. And at the end of that day, they gave me $3, and I did 2 things. One of them was I thought, first I tried to figure out a way to hide it so I wouldn't have to give it to my parents. And the second thing was I felt that money and I loved it, and I somehow got in my mind, I think I made a decision right there, that if I got enough of it, that big enough word for me, never had enough, that I would feel different than I felt most of the time. And that if I got enough power and enough money and enough property and enough prestige, I could get the hell out of Cahuenga and I'd be all right. When I felt real bad, I used to sneak into the Cahuenga Theater and watch the movies. I loved those movies. They did for me what alcohol was later going to do. I'd go in there alone, and it was dark, and I didn't have to deal with people. I drank because I was just pissed off at the world. I just thought it was the rottenest place and the people in it, and I didn't know it, but I tried to shine you on, didn't want to get you mad or tell you the truth. So I went to those movies, and I sat there and fell into that illusion. I'd sit in that movie Cahuenga Theater from Saturday afternoon till Sunday morning, knowing I was going to get a whipping when I got home for going to the movies and for not seeing where I was, and I did it anyway, and it was worth it. I drank the same way. I'd sit in that movie house and all by myself and eat my Mr. Good bar and fall into the illusion that was on that screen. And I began to believe deep inside of me that if I got the money and I got the hell out of Cahuenga, that everything would be like it was in the movie, just like it was. I'd wake up some morning and look better than when I went to bed and be taken into the drawing room, and have my breakfast, no kitchen. Some maiden butler just bring it in, and the men all wore, ascots and boutonnieres, and you never knew what day it was because nobody went to work, and had little dogs that never went poo-poo. Never. Never had fleas, ever. And nobody ever raised their voice or passed gas. And that is water. You know, I wanted it that way. And it was every time I went into that Tonga theater. And I was willing to get whipped and have my father make me feel like I was no good and I'd going straight to hell for those moments away from the world and from people that I didn't know how to handle. When I was 16 years old, I'd worked my way up to a factory job, and the women that drove me to work were some older than I. And on my first payday of Friday night, I was riding home with them, and they said, "We're going to stop at the Bright Spot and cash our paycheck." I'd never been in a bar. I wouldn't know the name of a drink or anything if you'd talk. But I'm an alcoholic, and I'm not going to tell you I don't know. You know, I'm just not going to, because I should know. I don't know what I should know, but I'm not going to let you know I don't know it. And I've gotten in a lot of trouble, but I'm not going to let you know I don't know. I should know, and by God, maybe I'll know midway through it. It doesn't matter what the results are, but I do not want you to know I don't know. Give me a green smock and a mask and a knife, and I'll do brain surgery. Because I don't want you to know I don't know. All right. They pulled up in front of that place, and I loved the look of it. I loved the look of it. You know, it had sort of an evil tinge. And it did. It was a real drinking man's bar. And that is where I learned to drink. And where I loved to drink long after I could afford to drink in the velvet sewers that charged you more and gave you less and had a maid in the ladies' room. It's the men's bar. The working men's bar that I loved. And that night we pulled up in front of one, and all the windows were blacked out. And I hope you have bars in Kentucky, but that's what we have there is bars. We used to. Everybody's getting so healthy out there. Had a big gold knob on the door, and you open that door, and I went in there and I loved it. I loved it right away. It had dim lights. God, thank you for dim lights. You know, I love them. If I had my way, the sun would have a dimmer on it. I love 40-watt bulbs. I live in a house full of 40-watt bulbs. I love that dim light, and because bright lights bring on reality for me. And we worked our way up from 25. Well, we worked our way up from the darkness of a car where I lived when I got here to 40-watt bulbs. So, but that night we went in there, and I love the smell. I still love the smell today. There is a smell about a bar, a good bar. It's the stale cigarette smoke and old beer, and a little bit of pine salt. Wafting over from the men's room, and a bartender who's got just a touch of Old Spice on. He's coming off a bad hangover. I don't want to drink where the bartender doesn't drink, because I don't trust it. And he's got little zircon earrings, or top links, little zircon. And he looks clean, but he's beaten to death from his eyes. And you can smell that touch of bourbon and that Old Spice. And I'm home. I love that smell. I climbed up on that red leatherette bar stool, and these women apparently, I didn't know what to order, and I'm not going to tell you. And I looked to see what they were going to order. And they ordered beer, and it came in brown bottles. And that ego, and that desire to look good, and that desire for approval, the thing that almost killed me, drunk and sober, took right over. I'm not going to... Rita Hayworth wouldn't drink out of a brown bottle. And I looked down to the other end of that bar, and I saw something in a big, tall, elegant glass with straws coming out of it, and fruit and bananas, and little men with hats on, and umbrellas, It looked elegant to where I'd come from, and I said, I'll have one of those. And I did. I had 9 of those that night. Had 9 of them. And I can't tell you what drink was to be a long time before I started, measuring and trying to shift them and trying to, I won't drink gin anymore because somehow gin makes me undress publicly. So I'll drink Scotch, because Scotch is a businessman, and I'm a businesswoman, and they don't undress publicly. And maybe it's the fifth Scotch and the third martini. That, it's not me. Maybe I'll drink vodka. It looks helpless. Clear and ugly looking. It don't have that rich color of a good glass of bourbon. Whatever. But that night I wasn't counting. And that night it worked. And that night it gave me everything I needed. Everything I needed to forget those overalls. I still wearing them. Trying to keep that bib, between these two things. And they didn't make Jordache, overalls, fitted for your figure. I was 6 feet tall, and when I raised my arm, that crotch came up just about to my throat. You learn not to raise it up. And I had that big birthmark on my face, and I was still wearing Aunt Merle's hand-me-down shoes, and I felt ugly, and I hated the world, and I felt different. I told my sponsor when I got sober, I felt weird. She said, you felt weird because you were weird. And that's how I felt, and but somewhere into those drinks, I drank them because they tasted good, and I loved all those bananas and cherries and all that. Thought I was a big girl, but most of all the feeling. The elusive feeling took over, little at a time. And about my, midway through, I had a feeling, and it's a feeling that stayed with me until the last few years of my drinking, and then it didn't matter. The feeling was, if you don't like what you see, and you don't like what I am, and you don't like where I came from, why don't you just remember to bury me face down, so you can always kiss my ass? That's the way alcohol made me feel. Now, I of course, it fills up their holes, and it makes us, that's how it made me feel. And that's the way I wanted to feel. I felt good, and I wanted to have fun, and I did. The fun I had was not always acceptable to the Los Angeles Police Department, to my husband, to other alcoholics, to bartenders, cab drivers, pilots on airplanes, and attendants, family, children. It wasn't always acceptable. I had some luck, and I got some jobs. I got out of that, out of Cahuenga, thank God, and got a little better job, and lived across the street from Vince Dundee's Knockout, and another drinking man's bar where I learned to drink and sit up there. We didn't have, glasses and swivel sticks and bananas, and I'd gotten so sick on those first drinks that I swore I'd never drink anything again that had a little man with a hat on, or a banana, or a cherry, and I never did. But at that bar, I learned to sit up at that bar, and I was 16 years old, and they'd pour my whiskey neat, and I drank it, and I loved it, and every now and then, one of those men there would feel a little bit paternal and walk me across the street to that little apartment in Glendale, and I was 16 years old and thought I was on my way up. I had some luck. I got a job in a very glamorous industry, and one that was suited to my personality, I'll tell you. I worked my way up into the recording and industry, and later the company that I was with made some films. And I'm not a performer. I worked behind the scenes, and I found some success there. And I started wearing $500 suits and having my legs waxed by a lady whose name I couldn't pronounce, and I had my eyelashes glued on one at a time for $100. And I started to look on the outside like I thought would fix the inside. And I found a husband, a good and kind man, who was not an alcoholic, and we married. And that marriage, I was well into my alcoholism by then. I'll tell you how that marriage went. He went to work every day, was faithful, and was kind, and I felt inferior. And I thought if he ever finds out, I never felt like a lady, and I never felt like a woman. I always wanted to, and I figured if I dressed up the inside and acted like people did in the movies or whatever, I could see certainly better than what I felt on the inside. Maybe I could fool him. Maybe I could fool him. And I had to drink in order to do that. And I started to drink in my marriage. I drank going in, but I hid it from him for those 2 years we were engaged. And then I started, my mind told me you're important, and if you bring home enough money, and you keep everything going all right, and you can buy him whatever he wants. It was never a twosome. It's always this way. And it was my response. I'll take care of it, and I'll shine him on and manipulate him and try to make him look good. And that marriage, I made that famous phone call 100 times, from that studio when the day was closed. It was, "Hi, honey. I'm going to be just about an hour late, not much more, coming home tonight. Business here at the studio." And I would leave that place and stop into one now out of those working men's bars, except every now and then, because I wanted to look good and I was drinking in those big high-class velvet sewers, where they clean your ashtray every 6 seconds. I've had fights with buzzers. Leave my damn ashtray alone. I tell you when I want to clean. What the hell's wrong with you? I still feel a little like that, but I try to be sweet and generous and tolerant. Just leave, And I'd go into that bar thinking, well, just a couple of little shooters here, and I'll be ready to go home to that sort of boring husband and be the woman that I know he wants. And it seemed like all of a sudden, in L.A., the bars closed at 2 o'clock. And all of a sudden it was 2 o'clock, and the lights were on, and I had somehow picked up some little scam. Short men have always been attracted to me. I don't know why. And I like them. They have certain characteristics and talents that only short men have. Anyway, I would have bought him enough drink and charmed him enough with my black turban and my black fox fur, and I'd take him out to the parking lot, and we'd live deeply in the back seat of my, Oldsmobile, my big car, and then I'd dump him out on that pavement and get ready to go home. And I'll tell you the shape I was in. First of all those single things, glued on eyelashes. I looked like I had feathers. They were all gone. And we wore little $300 top-knot hair pieces then, and that'd be, hanging on my sweater like a big mole, and my pantyhose would be hanging over the rearview mirror, and my bra would be stuck in my purse, and maybe I could find one shoe and I couldn't find the other. Little footprints on the windshield, mine, and I can remember driving home, and thinking and meaning it. I hope that he does not notice, That marriage got silent. That man tried everything to be, and he did not understand alcoholism. He did not drink, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I started going to a psychiatrist because I thought my husband didn't love me right, and that seemed right to me. And I went to bed with that psychiatrist in his office. I was going to get right to the root of the problem. And what you get are rug burns, and then you like to chat. And the mornings in that house were silent. They were silent. He'd bring coffee, and all the lies were over, and the excuses. I'd run it fresh out, and he'd go off to where he went, and I went off to where I At the end of 9 years, I had, as a direct result of my drinking, I had killed a child, my child, and had lost the capacity to ever have another child. And my husband was kind through that and comforting. But that wasn't why he left me. That wasn't why he asked me to go. It's because he didn't know what was wrong with me, and he couldn't live with me the way I was, the way I drank. And so I left, and I thought, now I can drink the way I want to drink. I was 32 years old. I was a success. That's how I measured it, and I was heartbroken and afraid. And I set about doing what I thought would help me. I worked harder. I undressed more publicly. When I got angry in a bar, I did one or two things. Sometimes I undressed, just threw my clothes off. I guess I thought, well, I'll show you. And, or I thought. Or I blacked out, you know, and you had to put me in the pantry, you know, where they keep the potatoes and the soda until I came around, because I'm a big package, and you can't prop me up against the wall. You said something I didn't like, I never could understand why I did, you know, why you would say that to me. And I'd hit you with a bar stool, or, you know, I'd just pick you up and hit you in the place I drank. That's what they never noticed it. I started making the rounds because I felt was beginning to feel and beginning to isolate and beginning to wake up in the morning feeling, just before I opened my eyes, that, God, I just stepped out of an 11-story building and there was no parachute, you know, right out of the 11-story window. That feeling in my stomach. And the idea of shame, I used the excuse, my God, you're a single woman, you're supporting yourself, you've built houses and you've gone to New York and you've traveled to Saudi Arabia and you did the interior design of that, and look who you are and look how lonely you are. Look how lonely you are. Why is it you can sit in a crowd of 200 people? Why is that? And they can be giving you an award and you've worked with them and you feel so lonely. Why is it you can lay in the arms of someone you love, you like, and try to love, and you feel so lonely, so separate, so apart, so lonely? Why is that? Sometimes I got sober a lot. I had to, you know. I couldn't live sober, so I drank again. And, because I didn't know how to live at all without drinking. I started to make the rounds of psychiatrists, you know, and I went to health farms. I went to the granddaddy of psychotherapists, you know. He's passed now, but he's the one who made Gestalt therapy. And I went up there to Esalen on the cliffs of Northern California where the ocean is magnificent. And you wear a white toga, and you have to a little band of flowers in your hair. And you eat bean sprouts and brown bread, whole grain bread. And you breathe deeply, and you talk to an empty chair, put the problem in the chair and talk to it, and then you become the problem, and the problem talks back to you. And you beat the sand with the baseball bat and relieve the tension, and you roll and you get massages. You better for $10,000 for 2 weeks. And about 2 days of that, and I was just as crazy as I guess I'll ever be. Just crazy. And in that white toga and barefoot, I thought, I've got to go down that Highway 1 to that little market and get me something that will help me talk to that chair. and really get centered, because these people are getting centered. And help me to float in those hot tubs and look out at the ocean. and not feel like I need a drink. So, and not feel spiritual, mystical. They were into mystical unicorns and moonstones. And I thought, there's something wrong here. And you do want to do this because you want to get better, because you feel so bad inside, and you spend all that money, and then I go give it back, and you feel strange around these people. So what you need is a little help. And I sneaked out to my car in that white toga barefoot and drove down Highway 1 to this little baby market. You know, it's out in the middle of nowhere. And I went in there, you know, there's the granddaddy of all hippies with his beard and weird wire glasses and meditating, I guess. Little tiny store. And I said, you know, I walk in a car factory and see where the bottle is, because I need it. And I walked in there and I said, that half-gallon right up there, where? He says, oh, you know, they don't do that up there. I said, you're telling me? Why do you think I'm hearing this funny out there? Give that to me for my unicorn. It's medicinal. Just give me the son of a bitch. I need it. The hell's the matter with you? You look funny, you know. I just got out to that car and I started to drink right out of the bottle. You know, we took the lid off. It got me back there. You talk about centered? One of the few people who sat in a blackout and they thought I was a winning candidate for all that shit. And I stayed there 2 weeks, and I got in my car to drive back to Los Angeles, and I'll tell you, you know, we talk about public enemy number one. I was close to it because I was like this. And I drank out of that bottle, and to hell with those curves on that little highway and the beautiful scenery. Because somewhere inside of me, I knew it wasn't going to change. And I knew it wasn't going to get better. And I didn't know what the hell was wrong. And I knew you didn't care, not a person in this world, and I'd tried everything. By God, I'd worked hard, and I'd done all these things, and I did love that husband, and he didn't want me. And I wanted to be a mother and couldn't help it because what happened. And it never once entered my mind that, you know, you might have a problem with alcohol. Never. Because I did not want to quit drinking. My life continued, and I hit peaks. And I'd get to the top, build me a house, live in the right neighborhood, Beverly Hills, Over Hills. Then one morning I'd wake up, you know, with that bowling ball in my head. Kind of hangovers I had, and I felt like if you lean forward, the bowling ball is going to take your face off. So you have to put your pantyhose on real careful. Don't bend forward. And if you lean back, it's going to take off your cerebellum or whatever it is that makes you think. And inevitably, every morning, you know, I would have cleaned up my act and gone for 2 or 3 months and been working with tight jaws. A couple little bennies to keep me from operating. And I'd be working through the top and doing fine and looking good and hating it and being in pain and lonely and anxious. But by God, this time, you know, it was going to work. And one morning, I'd wake up, and I cannot tell you when that was going to be. I had no measurement. But inevitably, I woke up in the morning and I think, you know, those people aren't treating me right. They don't understand my talent. They don't understand what kind of a person, what a complex, creative soul I really am. And I don't have to take.
This is the end of side 1. Please turn your cassette over at this time for side 2.
And I'd get in that car and I'd drive to that wherever that studio was, and I'd walk in and throw that door up, no good morning, and I'd go up to that big man's office and I'd say, hi, Jack, you know what you can do? You can take this job and shove it. And I would go out and get in my car and go home to drink. And those sprees lasted 9 months, 3 weeks, 4 days, a year. I woke up once around Easter off a spree and came out of it, and the Thanksgiving dishes were still in the sink. That's the truth. I did not vacuum or do things. I didn't do, when I drank, I had friends who vacuumed and did things, tried to give, not me. The house would be, you'd need the green berets to clean, just to find me wherever I finished drinking. And I never wanted to clean it up, and I never wanted to face it, and I'd take my 2 dogs and a Siamese cat and my jewelry and whatever came out of that little pile there in one of those rooms, and I'd get in my car, and I left it all. The piano and the couch and the room, I left, and I set about it again. I did that for 25 years. When I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I was no longer climbing the ladder to the top. I'd seen the psychiatrist, and they were good people. They tried to help me. I just never could tell them the truth because I didn't want them to think I was sick. And I didn't want them to think, and I began not to like him because he didn't seem they drank either. So I never told them about that. I'd gone through a marriage and a child, and I'd given it the very best shot I could, and I couldn't suck it in one more day. And so I set about being a bag lady. It was not hard to know I already was one, but I went down to Venice Beach in California. It's sort of Skid Row on the ocean, and took my 2 dogs and my Siamese cat, and I was where I wanted to be. I wanted to be where I didn't have to suck it in one more day and try to do those things that we try to do, take a bath and go to work and, deal with IRS and balance your checkbook and lie to the neighbor and go to the market and take a bath. I couldn't do that anymore, and I didn't want to. I just didn't want to do anything anymore. I just didn't give a damn. And so I made that choice, and it was a relief. It was a relief for me. And I was living in that car behind a little place, the Rose Market, on Rose Avenue and Oceanfront Walk in Venice, on the walkway there on Oceanfront Walk. Behind the dumpster there, backed up in there. And I'd worked all my life, but I didn't know there was a trick to panhandling. I was down there about 8 months, and I couldn't turn enough on the street because people pissed me off. They give me you get $1, and they say, "What the hell's wrong with you, $1?" And so I didn't get enough, and I had to steal my booze or find somebody to shine on, like Waverly Mary, and split her bottle till she passed out, and look for a way, and steal booze out of the market, and con somebody at Nick's Inn down on the corner to get enough, just enough now to keep me even, so that I could breathe and not shake, and that fear wouldn't take over so bad that I'd hide, I believe 2 things happened for me when that was my bottom. 2 things happened for me. One of them was I loved my animals. And I couldn't trust them to anybody else, or I'd have just done it. I walked away, and because I wanted to die, but I knew that Nikki, my little black dog, ate a certain way, and Angel, the female, and they were getting older. Gabby, my big Siamese cat, didn't know he was a cat. He thought he was a dog. And we have dysfunctional families, and I thought, and so I believe it was those animals and the need to feed them, steal the food from the Rose Market, and feed them. They kept me alive. They were the only thing that made me feel close to anything. And the other thing was, I couldn't make it on the street. I couldn't panhandle. I didn't know how. And one Monday morning, 4 days without a drink, shaking and sweating and afraid of those clouds and looking out at that water and knowing it was coming to get me, a thought came to me, and it sure as hell wasn't a thought that would have ever come to somebody like me. And the thought was, maybe if you... Now, I had never darkened the door of an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, nor did I wish to. I thought the days of wine and roses came out of somebody's imagination, and it looked normal to me. I didn't see what people were upset about. the thought came to me, in that car on that early Monday morning, I needed a drink bad. And I was afraid and I didn't know what to do. And the thought came to me, maybe if you go to Alcoholics Anonymous, you'll meet the real losers. You know, the street people, the losers, that can teach you how to make it out here on these streets. That is divine intervention, in my opinion. The message comes the way it comes. That day, it's about 8 miles to, I didn't know there was a central office. I mean, there are probably about 30 of you in the world that didn't drink, you know. And I thought, it never occurred to me you had a central office or, you know, a little list of who would want to belong to this stuff. And, but I remember when I was getting sober, or before I got sober, when I was living up on the hill up there in Bel Air, I had to go down to Sepulveda Boulevard, and there was this little yellow kind of house over there. Had no signs, no advertising. Everybody was quiet. And I'd catch it out of the corner of my eye. And I think that's where I know today, that's where they are. What are they? But I didn't connect it till that morning. I knew where to go. I took a shot. You know, I took a shot. It's the only place I ever came, you know, would have come to this sick woman, and I knew it. And it took me, it's about 8 miles. I started about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I got there at 8 o'clock. Couldn't figure out anymore. In the town I grew up in. And I want to tell you what I looked like when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, because I was told that night, and later on to save that outfit. I want to tell you because if there's a newcomer here today or somebody newer than me, I want to give you what was given to me, the thing that was given to me the night I got here, and that is looking like I did and smelling like I did and thinking like I did and feeling like I did. At the front door of that meeting, somebody put a hand out to me and they said, "Welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous." I know that man today. I've never forgotten him. I did not know I was dying, and I did not know I had a disease, and I didn't need any help from anybody. I just wanted to learn how to get a drink and make it on the streets and get that out of there. I came to that meeting wearing this fastidious woman who took a long time to worry about how she looked. Never looked on the inside. Tried to keep it shut. I was wearing an old pair of black pajama bottoms, urine soaked, and a blouse, no buttons on it. Had one button on it, and I had somehow managed to get all the other buttonholes up on that one button. I wanted to look good, you know. I didn't have on any underwear, and I was wearing a pair of bay springalators. Those little shoes with the bands over the toes, those little high heel shoes where your toes hang out. And the heel was gone on one, and I was trying to walk like you wouldn't notice it. I had not bathed or taken a bath, and I didn't care. I couldn't anymore, or done any of the things we do as human beings for about 8 months. And I'd lost track of that time. I didn't care. I looked funny, and I smelled funny, and I was... And the man at the front door that I walked up to was all, you know, clean. He was half my age. I had 11 teeth when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't know that. It's progressive disease. You know, you lose one here and one there. You fight your plate when you're puking, and I was doing the best I could. And that young man, clean, he had his lights on. It scared me. It was right around the time of Jonestown. I thought... And he put his hand out to me and he said, "Welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. What is your name?" And I almost left. It scared me. I was full of fear and hopelessness. I had the advantage when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous of not looking for a change, not believing it was ever going to change. Not looking for it. I just wanted to get in, get what I needed, and get the hell out of here. I'd had enough. I'd tried it all. And I had no idea what this program was about, and I didn't care. Thought it was full of losers. How you know, dressed like that, I was not exactly a winner. And that man smiled at me, had a mouthful of square white teeth and rimless glasses, and about half my age. Those are the people that got me sober. People, kids, 32 years old with 12 years of sobriety. Jesus, Cindy. Yeah. They didn't need people Cindy till 1971. Tell me to pick up those cups and ashtrays. What the hell's wrong with you? This man's name was Rick Duvee, and he put his hand out and he said, "Welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous," name. And I believe God started to work right there. Because where I'd come from, people ask you your name, they're getting ready to turn you. If you're too drunk to think of a new one, you say, "I can't remember," you walk away. But I looked at him and I gave him my name. And he put me through the door of this meeting. It just sort of like shot me through this door. And there I stood in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I took a look around, and you know that feeling when you've made a severe error? And you sure as hell don't want anybody to know, and you know that if you move, they're going to call the cops. I know that feeling. And I stood there and I looked around and I thought, all these people live together. And they've all known each other forever, and they take a bath every day, and I bet their kitchens are clean, and that their bureau are neat, and I bet they've never done what I've done, and then that old fear and that ego kicked in, and I thought, and I don't want to know them. I was so afraid, and I was lost. I have been lost when I was found. I have felt like I was lost. And a man named Jim R., he had about 15 minutes more sobriety than I did. But he looked good. He was a lawyer. His face was fire engine red, and he was sweating, but he had on a $500 suit, shaking like a leaf. And he walked up to me, and he said, I didn't even get to see. He said, "Are you an alcoholic?" "You risky little son of a bitch." I said, "No, I'm not a goddamn alcoholic. I'm here to learn to be a bag lady. Get away from me." How lawyers are. He ran right out to where the old-timers in my home group gather. He says, "There's a woman out in there that is not an alcoholic. She says she wants to be a bag lady. And she is weird." And a woman who was to be my sponsor for throughout my sobriety until last November said, "Well, Jimbo, why don't you wait until the break, and then bring her to me." That's what we do here in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's what we do in my home group. They took me to another woman who had lived like I did, and who felt like I did, and who had been here and taken the steps and knew how to do that and to tell me about it, who was in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, the same ones, every Tuesday and every Wednesday. No buffet-style AA. Gee, maybe I'll go over there to Mar Vista tonight. I feel spiritual. I got to keep going back to the same people so they'll get to know me, and so that I'll get to be somewhere near being honest, or at least start toward it. That woman. There's one in every group, and lots of them, really. And I didn't know that happened. I stand there in the middle of that thing and I wet my pants. I got sober in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. I detoxed in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I learned to control my bladder in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I found a new life here. It says in that book, we will, no frothy emotional appeal will suffice. It says we got to have something with substance here that will recreate our lives, that will give us life, and that we must set about recreating them. And that's what my home group and Alcoholics Anonymous started with me that night. That was June the 23rd, 1983. And I haven't had a drink or a little shooter of NyQuil, or anything since that night. I haven't had to drink again. God gave me the gift of sobriety. I believe in my heart it is a gift, and I believe that it was given to me. I may never know the reason why. I've worked with enough drunks now, and gone on enough panels and enough hospitals and enough meetings and walked into enough motel rooms where women have died, and before we could get there, and to know that they were just like me, and so I cannot question why I was given this gift, except that it is to carry a message through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, which were given to me, and I took them. I took the steps because my sponsor told me this is not a, one more self-help group. This is about your life and your very soul. It's about living and dying. And if you don't do these steps, you will do one of two things. You have your ass back out there on Venice Beach and you will die. Slowly, not quick. And if you stay here, you have a chance to live a new life. And I said, when do you start to feel better, She said, I can't tell you exactly when, but I can promise you this, that if you meet me tomorrow night at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, you'll feel some better. And that's how I've done it. Meeting people at meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, my sponsor in my home group, and now the women I sponsor, and I do feel some better. In sobriety, I had some trouble getting a job. In sobriety, I had cancer of the nose. Thought they were going to chop my nose off. In sobriety, I felt sadness and fear. And each time I went to my sponsor, she said, let's see now here, what principle in the book will apply? What other woman, what other sober alcoholic has had this same problem? And we'll talk to her. Those people that have gone ahead of us, and some who are beside us, and some who are new, who have survived a problem like that. When I was 5 years sober, my sponsor at my 5-year birthday party gave me a little silver mirror. I'd learned to handle a little bit of the truth. And on the back of that mirror it says, the answer for you and for me is one drunk talking to another drunk. Whether it's in a group here or like last night with Marianne, Jean, Larry Brantley telling me funny stories and me believing him. Don showing up at the airport and treating me like a lady and making me feel like one. Today I am a sober woman. I brought myself here like this. I wore my dress and my slip with the ruffles on. Hey, don't laugh, baby. Those were made by an 86-year-old woman that didn't know where I was. For the last 12 years I drank. My mother and my father, they went to bed every night wondering and lying, because I had disappeared. And my sponsor said, you do that fourth step, and the fifth, and the sixth, that's why they're numbered. And the first thing you do, I thought maybe it was pay the $33,000 back to the IRS. That wasn't it. It was, you will find your parents wherever they are and pray that they're alive, and whether or not you will make an amends to them, and ask how you can be a better daughter and comfort them and carry them the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. Not alcoholics, but the power, the love, the hope that's been given to you. Carry it to them. Took me a year and 6 months, and I found them, because one Sunday I got down on my knees to that God that I thought, you got me here, but I'm sure you don't like me. You're probably a Bush League hitter. You ought to meet my sponsor. And I got down on my knees and I said, God, please help me, and please don't let him be dead, and I can't find him because I have done the footwork. Made a decision. I did the footwork, and then I made a decision to turn my will and my life to the care, just the care of him. And I got up off of my knees, and I found an answer came in those people. And my sponsor, I said, well, I'll just write him a letter. She said, no, we'll go see him. And we did. They had no reason to ever love me or want me or take me back or do anything else. And I told them the truth. I wrote them a letter. My sponsor read it. She said, if you never hear from them again, you don't just pop in on them. If you never hear from them again, you are free. Because that is a letter of amends that is honest. She has heard my story and my inventory and my list of people that I have harmed. And she has set about a priority of how to get rid of that mess and set an example for me. Every alcoholic set an example. They showed up clean. They were in a meeting and they said the Lord's Prayer. What else can you give a dying drunk like me? I couldn't have believed anything more. What I saw and what I felt safe. I felt safe in meetings and didn't know the word. And I went to those parents with my sponsor and I told them the truth and asked them how I could be a better daughter and make their lives better. They're dying today, but I've had them for 7 years, and I've had 6 of those years to call every day and to send cards. And now, my mom, these steps work. My mom, people in my home group say, Cahuenga's dressed by UPS. Because in a box started coming. I didn't have enough money to buy clothes, and I had to go to work. And in boxes, the UPS man showing up at my door. Thought it was the cops. I was paranoid for a long time. With clothes. This dress came because they heard I was coming here. And this slip I got on with the lace. 86 years old, dying. My dad just had his foot amputated. And until I had viral pneumonia, this is my first day out of bed, 5.5 weeks, first meeting in 5. Now I had viral pneumonia. Got well when I got here. And I got on that airplane. There's something about running, Get on that airplane and get to AA. Told him I was coming here. And before that, since December, I went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I got in my car and I drove to Camarillo. It's about 70 miles from where I live. And I took them the power. I took them the message. I took them the love. And I took them the truth. See, I am the truth to them. I don't drink, and they know it. My life has changed, and they don't understand why. But I'm an example, and I brought that example to you. Just like I am. I am an example of the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, of a mental, physical, and spiritual recovery. I am an example that it doesn't mean doo-doo. That what we have here is sobriety one day at a time, and that the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, 1 through 9, done and out of the way, and 10, 11, and 12 are going to keep me sober. If I work with other alcoholics and I don't pick up a drink, and somewhere along the line, doing all that, playing volleyball and being the cheese lady and the toilet paper lady for a year, taking commitments at those meetings that I thought were beneath me while I slopped along in my pajama bottoms. All of that. That's what I'm an example of. And what that is the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, the total thing. The total thing. I've been given a God, and I taught one drunk to another, and I've been given the gift of sobriety, and it doesn't matter why. And I've come to you to show you what you've done for me. Because I have learned to love, and I thank you all for that. Thank you.
This is the end of this cassette. Please advance the tape as far as possible for the next playing.